What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here. Today, Riot released their Runeterra Reforged Learnings article, which is a really cool article that they put out. Basically, at the end of every set, they talk about what they learned from the last set, and in this article, a lot what they are going to do in the next set. So I wanted to go over this article. I know in the last sort of talky video I did, a lot of you guys seem to like that a lot, so I'm going to do another sort of talky article, get a dish soap game from NA in-houses in the background for you guys. But like the last one, I'm just going to be mostly going through the article, talking about my thoughts on everything that they said, and a lot of really, really cool news for the future of TFT. So yeah, I'm just going to hop into it. I'm going to have the link to the article in the description. If I don't, just please, ping me, just write a comment and I'll put it there in case I forget about it. But I'm just going to go through all of the sort of big sections they have and talk during them. So there's like a big summary part at the front, but that basically just summarizes the whole article. I'm going to hop into like the main section of the article. So first thing that they talk about is the items change. So this is something that they talked about the end of last set, and something that they did this set is that they did the item rework, basically. Well, it's not a complete rework, but they took out support items, they made those uncraftable but still accessible, and they made it so every item that you can slam is an item that should go on some kind of carry champion. There's no support items whatsoever. And they talk about that as being a huge success. They like the fact that there are more slammable combinations now, which I mostly agree with. I am a little bit sad, and I know people have talked about this in the past, where, Locket for a long time was a slammable item. ZZ Rot was a very slammable item in TFT's history. It feels a little bad actually not having those options. Like when you get dropped a bow, like look at Dish Soap's position right here. He has this bow here. This bow has to go towards an offensive item, right? The most defensive item you can make out of bow is like Titans, which is still not really a defensive item. Having the ability to make something like a ZZ Rot in the past was actually like really, really nice as a way to sort of like kill your offensive components, especially when you play something like Sorks, where like, you don't really need the bow that much. Having the ability to sort of like bail yourself out of that component and go ZZ Rot felt really, really good. So that's something that they don't actually talk about in this article, but something that I wish they had talked about a bit is like the fact that with these changes, there's some item combinations that don't actually have a satisfying way to kill the component. I feel like bow is like definitely one where that's the case. A lot of other ones are very good, like belts you can easily make really good defensive and really offensive components out of. But something like bow that used to have ZZ Rot now doesn't have ZZ Rot. So something to think about. Also, maybe it's just me being biased because I'm a ZZ Rot lover. Next section is next section is really interesting. They're talking about backline access traits, because this trait they added rogues. In set 8, they had hackers, and they dropped the news actually that next set there is going to be 0 backline access trait, no assassin, no rogue, no anything like that. And they're going to instead focus on spells and abilities that allow you to access backline. Think something like perhaps like Lux ult in the past, where she shoots a beam across the entire team, and she can definitely like snipe a backliner with that. I think this is actually good. This is something that people have been talking about for a long time, is that you don't necessarily have to have traits that allow you to hop to the backline to be able to keep backliners in check. You can just have spells that hit backline really hard. Think like that Lux ult. Think like Zyra ult, which is sort of similar to like Quinn ult, but like the old Zyra ult where she would hit the biggest like line of enemies and she could just like ult the entire backline. Like stuff like that like absolutely destroys backline if people aren't positioning for it, or if they're just, keeping their carry in the back corner there. So I actually like this a lot. I'm curious to see how it works out. I never felt like there was a need for a sort of like assassin trait in TFT, and they can be very frustrating. I thought rogues were actually pretty solid for basically the entire set. 4 rogues was sort of like a balancing issue, and they talk about that in the article, where like for a long time 4 rogues kind of sucked, and then once it finally was good, it was a little bit OP. But now I think it's actually in a pretty good state, and I didn't have too many pain points with rogues the entire set. I don't know. I'm not someone who's really that much. Like, I didn't hate playing it to hacker or rogue or anything like that, but I know some people get really frustrated by that. So, fair enough, I guess. Curious to see what a set looks like with no backline access trait. Should be interesting. Next, they talk about threats. So, for those who didn't play set 8, threats were basically traitless champions that you could slot into any board, and they talked about how successful those were in set 8, and in set 9 they tried to do something similar with like Heimerdinger, with like Belveth, or like Heimerdinger you can slot onto any board. Belveth they talk about, but like, yeah, like kind of you could slot Belveth into any board, I guess, a little bit. I really love the idea of threats, and they talk about potentially adding new like threat type champions that aren't 5 costs, which I'm really, really hyped for. Threats were so good in set 8. The fact that you could just slot a Morgana or a Rammus or something onto your board was so amazing. And it also did wonders for flexibility because you don't have to play this pre-prescribed comp. You can add a random flex unit in the, Rammus, the Morgana, even like an Aurelion Soul in set 8 was so nice to just throw onto your board if you needed that healing reduction, you needed that tread kind of stuff. So I really, really like that they're thinking more about this design space because I think it's really, really good design space in TFT in general. So very, very hyped for that. I would be very happy if threats were like almost a permanent part of TFT, where they had like a few threats every single trade or something like the threat every single set. So yeah, threats enjoyers. Okay, here is a big one, a really, really big announcement, and something that I'll talk a decent bit about. They talk about +1 augment. So they talk about, if you have like Noxus +1, like a Noxus emblem, that can be really powerful in TFT. And they got rid of a lot of the just like straight up +1s, like the silver, give your team +1 Noxus, because those tend to be very hard to balance. We still, of course, have, like the Noxus emblem, the prismatic Noxus, and they are mostly right that I think these were relatively balanced throughout the set, but they can be very dangerous. We see this patch to the Earth players, right, where if someone hits the Ancient Archives into dedication, they can just sometimes win the entire game for free. So dangerous design space. But here's something really, really crazy that they say in this article. What's interesting, though, is that for our next set, there will not be any souls, crowns, or hearts. This is because that design space, adding extra towards a trade, is being used for the set's mechanic, ... So it sounds like the set's mechanic next set has something to do with getting emblems that you can put, on your team. You basically, like, the set mechanic would be like, pick an emblem, get Demacia emblem. Wrapping this folding this back into my last video about thinking about the danger zone, the danger possibilities for like a set mechanic. I'm scared. I'm very scared. I'm curious to see what this set mechanic brings. There's my phone buzzing for my corporate mandated phone buzzing during a video. I am really, really terrified because if it's too tailorable, if it's too easy to pick whichever emblem you want, we have something like Placidium Library basically every single game, that region that we have right now. That sounds horrifying, right? The fact that we could basically, like, if there was a Shadow Isles, remember Shadow Isles in set 9? Imagine every game you can get a Shadow Isles pat. There's also the idea that if verticals are too strong next set and the entire set mechanic revolves around getting +1 emblems, then we go back to the exact same thing that we had this set, where what if, please let this not be the case, but what if at 2-1 you pick an emblem? You're telling me that at 2-1 every single game I'm going to play the Earth style gameplay from this set and we're going to pick Demacia emblem and then just hard force Demacia from that game? I know Mort said, and I showed his tweet from last video, he said that flex play is going to be better next set. He basically outright said this, and that the mechanic for next set is going to allow flex play to be solid again. I don't really see how this spoiler for mechanic makes flex play good. It sounds like it really incentivizes you to lock in your comp. Completely interested in seeing what happens. Maybe if it's like give you a random emblem, but that still doesn't allow flex play, that just allows you to force a comp early. So I'm definitely down to see what the team over at Riot does with this mechanic. I'm always hyped to see what the new set looks like, but I'm a little bit afraid. I'm cautiously optimistic that they can make a really good set mechanic out of this idea, but I am a little bit afraid about the possibility that it just ends up being everyone's playing Earth every single game and we have to lock in our comp based on an emblem. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see once we have more information about the set mechanic. So yeah, should be interesting for sure. All right, next they talk about the augment refresh, and they say that in the future we can't do as big of a refresh on augments every set, but we're going to make sure every set includes a bunch of new augments and then invest in the augment space more due to how much of an impact it has on sets feeling new and exciting. So I like this. Just every single set add a few augments, basically. Well, not even a few, like a decent number of augments, I think is a good idea. I really like a lot of the new augments they added this set. It definitely kept things very fresh, not having to deal with like a lot of augments from last set. But I do think there are a few that could come back, and they also sort of like have a back catalog now of a lot of like old augments that were really, really cool. So, say maybe next set, they take a few augments from this set, a few augments from maybe even as far back as set 6, a few from set 7, and like we bring a few back, make some new ones. Like I think the more and more time they have, the more like of this huge augment catalog they have, the easier it'll be able to make the game feel fresh and exciting by just adding, say, like a few augments in here and there from previous sets, along with a few new ones. So very, very hyped for that. I think that's really cool. Next, I talk about hero augments. Set 8 was the set of hero augments, but set 9 had hero augments. They had the Warwick augment, the Swain augment, the Galio augment. Some much stronger than others. Warwick was terrifying. Riftwalker was even good for a while and then became pretty bad after the mid set. They say we will likely do more of these in future, but not in massive volumes or anything. So I'm completely down to have similar hero augments to this set in every set. I think they did a really good job with these. The boss, of course, I forgot to mention. And there's probably one more that I'm forgetting to mention, but maybe I said them all, I'm not sure. But like hero augments were really fun this set. Allowed for really, really cool comps. Let me back, but I don't know why my light is so weird the way that it's hitting me. Like it like makes my I don't know. I gotta change how my light looks. In any case, hero augments are really cool this set, and I'm down for them to be in basically every set from this point onwards. In this exact space where we have a few hero augments, they seem pretty like kept on keeping them in the 2-cost space, which like I think we could even do some like 3-cost or maybe even 1-cost hero augments. They seem like they want to shy away from that and just keep them towards 2-cost, which I guess is fine. I don't, hate them being stuck in the 2-cost space, but I think they could be cool in other spaces as well. But definitely happy to see more of those in the future. All right, here is the big stuff. Looking forward, they talk about legends, say they were really, really cool for new players and returning players because they allowed you to control variants. But the problem is that if a legend was ever optimal, even close to optimal, then people at the high level ended up forcing them a lot. And legends that, legends decrease variability. So for the most engaged players, if they're playing, hundreds and hundreds of games per set and they have to play every single game with Born Legend, it's very annoying because the games become very samey, which is kind of the opposite of what the augment system does. So they said, for now, expect legends to not be part of our next set. Now, this is really, really crucial the way they worded this. For now, expect legends to not be a part of our next set. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like to me that they want legends to be a part of TFT in the future. I think they saw the success of legends as a way for new players and like the more casual player base to enjoy the game and be able to like decrease variance and allow like new players to just pick their BIS items every game, or like play Lee Sin and just play their reroll comp every game. So I think they want legends to exist in TFT's future, but they know they're not actually in an acceptable state right now where like every patch there's some legend that seems like really, really out of line that just absolutely shakes the meta. So I think there's a pretty good middle ground, but I would say based on this article that we should probably expect legends in a future set, maybe set 11, set 12 or something, once they feel like they've gotten a really good sort of like handle on balancing them. So something to think about. But for all the TF haters out there, TF is gone. Crab emoji. It's so all you guys, you got what you want. No TF for set 10 for sure. TF is dead, which I think is a good thing probably. Next, I talk about region portals and what a huge success they were. I think they're absolutely correct in this. The portals were by far one of the best set mechanics we've had in a long time. The only downside to this set is that we had portals and legends. If we had just portals, I think this might have been some of people's like absolute favorite sets of all time, because portals add a ton of variability to the game. Like they talk about in the article, playing a game where you play Scuttle Puddle and the next game you play Air and Mount. Those are 2 games of TFT, but they're so fundamentally different that it just makes it adds a ton of variety. Like I was talking about with the augment system, like areas where they add variety to TFT is really, really cool, really, really enjoyable. So absolutely knocked it out of the park with portals. They do say that some of the more complex portals were not as fun. Things like the House Light Shield and the Sump people really didn't enjoy, which I think, yeah, that is a very reasonable criticism, is that stuff like that that's really transformative people don't love. They like just having some more econ to play with, having some more items to play with, that kind of stuff. But yeah, something that says like when your unit dies, you die, like That's, yeah, a pretty hard pill for a lot of TFT players to swallow. So really good learnings from that, but I think they they correctly acknowledged that legends were, or not legends, not legends, but portals were an amazing, amazing addition to this set. So yeah, really, really good job. Um, Next thing they talk about is power bloat, and I didn't skip. Oh my god, there's so much more that I have to get through. But there's one thing I want to make sure that I didn't skip. Okay, no, that's in the, yeah, that's in this section. Okay, so power bloat. They talk about how there's a lot of power in TFT now. There's portals, there's augments, there's like legends now. It means that, you know, like people can get to 3-star 4 costs pretty frequently. If you play in Scuttle Puddle, the max cap for a lot of people is like going 9, 3-star 4 cost, that kind of stuff. And so balancing around that power bloat is really hard. It's something that they didn't talk about here, but that they kind of are alluding to with the next thing that I'm going to talk about is the XP change they made this set. They don't talk about it straight up, but this is something really crucial to talk about this set. The XP change this set, where they made it harder to go from level 7 to 8, was absolutely huge for this set. In my opinion, in a bad way, but it made a big impact on this set because it's so much harder to go 8 now in TFT. It's so much harder to go fast 8 that a lot of patches, people were really incentivized to go past level 7 and then donkey roll it down, roll all their gold down at 7 and try to find their board. So many patches of this set were around fast level 7 and just donkey roll it down. And I personally definitely not like a huge fan of that playstyle. I really enjoy sort of like the fast 8, the fast 9 even playstyles. Like those have been my favorite patches. And thinking about it in the past, actually, the patches where I have done the best have been those patches. Interestingly enough, my like highest elo patches were the Kaisa patch in set 6, where everyone was playing around Socialite Kaisa, and you know like set 9.0 when I was just going in Shurima Cup, going fast 9 every game, playing around like Ari and stuff. So interesting to think about. Hopefully we can bring that back in the next set. And what they say, the announcement in this article is, it might not be what you're expecting, but the big news is that level 10 is now a permanent part of the game. What? We can go 10 every game? Now the only way that exists, right? Because level 9 is already pretty uncommon, is if they change the leveling curve up a bit so that it's more balanced towards potentially going, you go 8 a lot of the time and you go 9 even, like, you know, like I think Mortog said in the past, you should go 9 in like 20% of your games. The only way for going 10 to exist is if you go 9 now, maybe like 50% of your games at like late game, like the common capped out situation is you level 9. So that's going to be really, really interesting, actually. Like I'm really curious to see what a game of TFT looks like where everyone is going level 9 potentially. I think it'll be really fun. Like I talked about, that's what I really enjoy. Also makes more sense towards what Mort was talking about like flexibility in TFT. If you're going 9 a lot more frequently, going 9 tends to reward a lot more playing like strongest board, playing flexible, and then just econing up and then pushing 9 and then playing around what you hit at level 9, at level 8. So I'm really, really hyped for that change. And then also the ability to go 10 if you're just giga smurfing on the lobby seems really, really cool. So very hyped for that as well. Next thing they talk about is like skins, where like people liked champions that had just like base skins because they're easier to read. All good. They said they're going to do more Runeterra base sets where people have their base skins. I am completely fine with that. Yeah, definitely don't have an issue with that whatsoever. And it looks like we're getting almost to the end of this dish soap pod, so I might have to skip ahead because I got a little bit more of the article to go through. But yeah, I like this. I mean, it's not a big change in my opinion. It's just like a small change that we're going to see more base skins, which I think a lot of people like. Okay, another big one, exciting and unique low-cost units. They talk about where having low-cost units with complexity like Kale and Cho'Gath was a big win, because people like playing around 1 cost. They like playing reroll, and they like the power budget, you know, not only being in like the high cost units. And yeah, we are at the end of this VOD, so I'll just skip ahead and dish soap's VOD into the next game. Boom, there we go. They like being able to play around 1 costs and like reroll comps like that. And the added complexity of stuff like hero augments as well allowed you to play around 2 costs. So they say going forward, the team took a ton of time making low-cost units interesting and having comps that highlight their fantasies. This is something we want to continue to take in future sets. So sounds like we're going to have more and more 1 costs that have an ability to be really strong. This is scary, right? There was at least 1 patch for sure this set where 1 cost reroll absolutely dominated. It's been a few patches this set, I would say, where 1 cost reroll has been absolutely insane. And so you definitely have to be careful with that. You cannot for sure just like do that every single have every single patch be one cost reroll. As we saw, it was just not very fun, the patches where like absolutely every single person was playing one cost reroll and the game revolved around calling your one cost reroll at the start of the game. That was not very fun. So definitely something that they have to be careful with how they balance. But I mean, playing around a giant Cho'Gath is fun, objectively. Like you can't say that it's not fun. So I'm I think this is a reasonable idea. It's just they do have to be really careful with the balance. So yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. And then okay, this is the last section. So set complexity and balance. This is another big one. They talk about this set is really complex. A lot of people who have talked about the balancing issues of this set have talked about it in the context of the fact that this set is really hard to balance because there's so much stuff going on, right? There's these legends, there's portals, there's augments, there's everything all together holistically that's very hard to balance for. So there are two ways you could fix this. You could, one, go down in complexity and say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore in the future. This is kind of what I talked about in my last video, where I said, like, if legends are going to be a real pain to balance, just don't put legends in your set, basically. Or there is the other option, which is just get better, forehead, just balance better. And it sounds like Riot wants to go the other way. They said we've hit a complexity ceiling. Now that we've hit this complexity ceiling, this is about as complex as TFT can ever be with all of these different elements coming together. It's time for us to get better at balancing with this raised level of complexity. And they talk about the fact that, they're hiring a lot of people. They have a much bigger team now, but they say, we have a big team now, but people don't get trained up overnight. And with a larger team, there's a larger need for organization, task management, and distribution that we had to learn along the way. This is one of TFT's first set, either this set or like set like 9.0 or maybe 8.5, but really like 9.0 and 10 are TFT's like first sets with this bigger team where they've hired more people. They're expanding TFT because it's doing quite well as a game. So they decided to hire more people. And that definitely comes with growing pains. Like they said, like you can't, like it's going to be hard to go from, a team of, I don't know what the number is, but say there was a team of, 20 people before, and now it's a team of 50 people, or it was a team of 50 and now it's a team of 100 people. Like I said, I have no clue what the numbers are like. It's hard to make those big jumps, even if you have objectively more people. Like they talk about organization and things like that is difficult when you're going from like one huge jump to another amount of people that are working on your game. So as always, I have faith in Mortog. I have faith in the entire TFT dev team. The team has done some amazing stuff with this game. Like TFT, like I said in the last video, is a beautiful game. It's an incredibly fun game to play. It's the best game in its genre by far, in a genre that is really like untested. Like there aren't a lot of games in this genre, and TFT just knocked it out of the park. So I am down. I'm down to give the benefit of the doubt to the TFT dev team and say, oh my god, he got double trouble in this spot with Mariso Magnum. He's just gonna have infinite. This spot is so insane. I'm actually gonna skip ahead in the video to see how this game ends up going, because like I know my VOD's gonna end soon, but I wanted to see what happens in this game. But yeah, like I have faith in the TFT dev team. At the end of the day, I think they're, like I said, one of the best dev teams out there. And so, like even if there are issues with balance, even if there are, issues with like certain mechanics, I'm gonna rep them. I'm gonna rep them until the day I die, because at the end of the day, they made one of the best games of all time. So I'm give your support to the TFT dev team. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Absolutely. Like I think they are definitely going through growing pains now. And just imagine, like this set, I actually enjoyed this set a lot. Imagine if the set had been perfectly balanced. Like why would you ever play in any other game? Like the TFT dev team has to give, Valorant and League of Legends and like all these single player games a little bit of hope by making the game unbalanced sometimes so that you go out and play them. Because if the game was perfectly balanced, then you would just be playing TFT 24/7, and like that wouldn't be okay for the other games. So they have to give some to the other dev teams in the other games. But yeah, that's the end of the article, and we're at a good point in the length of the video. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts upon all of this stuff. Like I said, I'll have the article in the description, so go read the article for yourself down below if you want to go like read more in depth about the stuff I talked about. I hit all the big points, but there's definitely some small little nuggets in there that I didn't get to. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, absolutely let me know your thoughts. Looks like Dish Soap ends up top 4ing this game because he top 4s every game because he's a goddamn beast. But yeah, I will, let's skip to the end of the video to see who wins. Just for fun. Looks like, did we die there? No, it's us for this Darth noob at the end. Like, I don't know. I was like, I'm just gonna end the video, but I was like, surely you guys want to see how this Nico game ends, right? 8 Sork versus 6 Bastion Nico with double trouble. Who ends up winning out? Oh my god. And like this Nico setup is actually really interesting. I wish we could have actually analyzed this game because there's a lot going on. For sure. These in-houses are really cool. Maybe we'll do some more VOD reviews of them. Oh my god. The fight with the Nico trying to sustain through, but you can't actually get through this giant Swain. It's a loss for Dish, so it's a second. All right. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.